Welcome to another Bible Truth broadcast. I'm Evangelist Tom Gillum, itinerant evangelist, believes in expositional preaching. It's a joy to have you on the broadcast today. I hope you'll have a Bible handy, a notebook, something to write with if it's possible. We're going to find our text today again in 1 Peter chapter 4. We've been using this verse as a basis for our study these days. Verse number 12, Peter says, "Beloved, think it not strange, don't think it a foreigner, concerning the fiery trials which is to try you, as though some," and we're interested in these two words here, "strange thing happen unto you." That could also be interpreted strange minister. Of course, we have already looked at a couple of these, but preachers come, they're strange ducks. They come in all kind of packages, fat ones, skinny ones, loud ones, soft-spoken, some that are very interesting, some are boring, some can sing, some dare not sing. But if they're a true man of God, they'll have a message for you. But often I'll get caught up in their package and miss their message. But on a much deeper plane than that, God has some strange ministers that'll come by the house. And if we're not careful, they'll have a message too, but we'll get caught up in their package. We have already looked at the strange minister of weakness. Paul got caught up in his thorn. He was thorn focused. He wanted it gone. But when he took his eyes off the thorn and looked at the message, God said, "My grace is sufficient for you." And then we looked at the strange minister of disappointment, two on the road to Emmaus. Once they took their eyes off of what they expected and saw Christ for who he was, they got the message. Today, if you have a Bible, we're going to be in Isaiah today and chapter 45. And I want today to look at the strange minister of darkness. Those times when the unusual comes, the unexpected, the unknown, the unexplainable, the unbelievable. Darkness is a major theme in the Bible throughout the scriptures. Exodus 10, it spoke of darkness that could be felt. 1 Samuel 2, it says, God keeps the feet of the saints, leaves the wicked shrouded in darkness. It says in 2 Samuel 22, the Lord made one is the only one who can lighten the darkness. Job, he bookends all of his book with the unknown, with evil, with sorrow, with tragedy, with heartache, with depression, with doubt, despair, hopelessness, death. And he mentions darkness 38 times. Matter of fact, he says on the day of his children's death that it was shrouded in a cloud of darkness. David in the Psalms deals with every emotion possible, and he mentions darkness 17 times. The Lord said that in the last days, those that were lost, he would throw them in outer darkness. They'll be in darkness forever. The day that he was crucified, that the sun didn't shine for 3 hours. The earth was shrouded in darkness. Darkness will come, those unusual, unexplainable, unknown situations. I want to answer 4 questions today. Answer them for us as best I can from the scriptures. First question is, who created darkness? Often thought that God just dealt with light and the devil dealt with darkness. Of course, a study of the Bible will mess up a lot of things you thought that you believed. But in Isaiah 45 and verse 7, He says, I form the light. The little word form means to mold, to shape, like a potter. He says, I molded and shaped the light and create darkness. There he mentions darkness. The little word create, to dispatch, to make to happen, to steer, to direct with purpose. So we see right away that if any darkness comes into your life, God says the devil's not steering that. He's not even in the car. He says, I have the steering wheel. I direct it with purpose. Then he makes this statement. He says, I make peace. He says, I mold and shape tranquility, a restful time. He says, and I create evil. He says, I have the steering wheel to all evil, bad, unhappiness, badness at its worst kind, events of displeasure that causes one pain and misery and unhappiness. So if any darkness, any evil comes into your life, God says, I am the one at the steering wheel. Matter of fact, he says in verse number 7, I, the Lord, do all. There's nothing that he does not have the steering wheel to. Do all these things. I hear folks from time to time says, I believe God's in control of everything, and yes, he's in control of all of that too. I was thinking about in this Isaiah passage over in chapter 14, when we think God's not in control of everything. Isaiah says this in Isaiah 14:27, for the Lord of hosts hath purposed, and who shall disannul it? His hand is stretched out, and who shall turn it back? When God has purposed to do something, and he says that it is his purpose. He is the director of all darkness and all evil. And when he has purposed it, who will stop him? As David of old said, when I was overwhelmed, I said, lead me to the rock that is higher than I. Darkness comes into your life, those unusual, unexplainable, unknown, unbelievable things happen to you. You better run to the rock. Who created darkness? God created darkness. Question number 2, why would God create darkness? Back in Isaiah 45, if you have the Bible studying with us, he says in verse 3, and I will give thee the treasures of darkness. That little word treasure, the storehouse, where God stores all his riches. Oh, today, there's some things that you can only learn about God in the darkness. He says, in the hidden riches of the secret place, thou mayest know that I, the Lord, that thou mayest know that I, the Lord, which called thee by name, am the God of Israel. Sometimes it's only in the dark that we can realize that God is who he says he is. Treasure, the storehouse. David said in Psalms 91, he that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. He says he will find him a refuge and fortress, a present help in the time of trouble. You can only find that help often in the darkness. I notice also about this, why would he create darkness? He says in Isaiah chapter 60 and verses 1 and 2, he makes these thoughts, arise, shine, for thy light is come. The glory of the Lord is risen upon thee. For behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, gross darkness the people. The Lord shall arise upon his, and glory shall be seen upon thee. Darkness is prevailing our land. Wokeness is coming upon us everywhere. But within us and upon us, God's light shall shine. I tell you, those who are God's people, their desire is to be like Christ. If you desire to be like Christ, do not forget Christ had a wilderness experience. He had a Gethsemane experience. He had a Calvary experience. He had a Judas in his life. All of that, a life just often with dark times. But after that dark times of his life, he was elevated and exalted to a land of endless day. So if you want to be like Christ, why would he create darkness? Oh, there will be wildernesses, there will be Gethsemanes, there will be Calvaries, our own cross, there will be Judases in our life. We're on the road to a land of endless day where there'll never be any more darkness. Who created darkness? Why would God create darkness? Question number 3, what am I to do when the lights go out? You have the Bible there, Isaiah chapter number 50. What am I to do? The Bible says in verse 10, who is among you that feareth the Lord, that obeyeth the voice of his servant, and walketh in darkness? Here's one, he's living for God, he's walking with God, he's attending church, he's in the Word, he's giving, and all of a sudden the lights go out. What is he to do? Spiritual lights, unusual, unbelievable, unexplainable things come and just leave him in the dark. What is he to do? He says in verse number 10, and hath no light, he says, let him trust in the name of the Lord. That little word trust, get as low as possible. Put your face in the dirt. He says, and let him stay upon his God. Lean all of his weight upon him. Oh, lean upon God, look to God, run to that rock when the lights go out. And it may be in the midst of that God would speak again. He says in Proverbs that the path of the just is as a shining light, shineth more and more unto a perfect day. As it gets darker and darker in this world, it shall get brighter and brighter within inside of us. Trust him. Stay upon him until the lights come back upon. Who created darkness? Why would God create darkness? What am I to do when the lights go out? Question number 4, if you have the Bible there, John's Gospel, chapter number 1, question number 4. When did you, or has there ever been an occasion when darkness was extinguished in your life? I didn't ask you, had you been down the Romans Road, the German Road, the French Road. Didn't ask you if you prayed the sinner's prayer, joined the Baptist church, been dunked in a baptismal pool. I asked you, have there ever been an occasion where you realized that God extinguished darkness in your life? John chapter 1, he says in verse number 4, in him, talking about Jesus, was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shineth in darkness, the darkness comprehendeth it not. So he, whenever he comes into a situation, he extinguishes the darkness, and the darkness cannot comprehend or overwhelm him. You have the Bible there, 2 Corinthians chapter number 4. 2 Corinthians chapter number 4. Paul's testimony here. Paul has said earlier in Ephesians, and you hath he quickened who were dead, trespasses and sin. So before Christ saved you, you were dead. You were in the darkness. You was in the grave of sin. Had no ability to come to God. You were a corpse. So here's Paul's testimony of how he got saved. 2 Corinthians 4, verse 6. For God, who commanded the light to shine out of darkness, has shined in my heart to give the light of the knowledge of the glory of God in the face of Jesus Christ. That little word who commanded is much like creation, and let there be light. Paul said on the road to Damascus, God stepped inside of him and said, "Let there be light." And there was light. And so has there been a time when God stepped inside of you, said, "Let there be light," and there was light? He says in 2 Corinthians chapter 4 and verse 7, "But we have this treasure, Christ in us now, in an earthen vessel." The little word earthen is the word dirt. The little word vessel is the word bag. We have Christ in a dirt bag. That's all we are, is dirt. Going back to the dirt, the only thing that gives us any worth is Christ in us. Who created darkness? Why? What am I to do when the lights go out? Then when did you or have you ever had darkness extinguished in your life? When darkness comes, better run to the light, run to the rock. I remember as a young boy, Mom and Dad took us to Mammoth Cave, walked down, as a fat boy I was, until we were 3 miles under the ground. All I could think about was having to walk back up out of there. I didn't realize they had an elevator to come out of there. But we got down in this mammoth room. I don't know how many locomotives they could be in that room. And the Smokey the Bear guide, he said, we choose a group every summer to do an experiment on. And when he said an experiment on, all the lights went out. And I could remember that thought. They said it was so dark you couldn't see your hand in front of you. So dark you could feel it. And I realized how dark it was. And then that Smokey the Bear, it seemed like an eternity. He struck a match. Just a little bit of light lit that up. Oh, my friend, today we're living in a very dark world. You don't have to get out the floodlights of Jesus to sinners. All you would do is just use a little bit of light, and it'll light up such a dark area. I was wondering today in closing, has the words of this song ever meant anything to you? When darkness veils his lovely face, I'll rest on his unchanging grace. In every high and stormy gale, my anchor holds within the veil. On Christ the solid rock I stand, all other ground sinking sand. My friend, when the lights go out, I encourage us today, run to the rock that is higher than I. Thanks for listening to us today. It's a joy to have you on the broadcast.